G'day, Bomber fans. Footy is back, the bye is over, and Essendon, along with the rest of the comp, have descended on Adelaide because it is gather round time. Sorry guys, but for the week it is Palmy, not Palmer. Nothing you can do about that. All 18 teams are with yours truly in the City of Churches for the Festival of Footy. Hopefully a few of you guys are getting out to the game and chilling down in SA for the weekend. That'd be fun. But yeah, Saturday night, two teams near the bottom of the ladder, both draft picks belonging to the Bombers. This is the Mick Ablett Cup, big game for us, big game for the Ds too. Tough one to predict, so let's give it a go, I guess. But first, some votes from the Port game to get through. Well, it was a while ago, but we do have votes. It was Sam Durham who got the most. I gave him 3, you gave him 2. Zach Merritt got the maximum from you lot. I gave him donuts. Xavier Dersma got 1 from the both of us against his old team. Jade Gresham got 2. By the way, he was really close to overtaking Dersma in your vote count. Speaking of close, the role player, it was decided by the smallest of margins between. It was Roberts just ahead of Reed and El Hawley. Reed did get some love from me too, though. The overall tally, it's Merritt pulling away a tad. He is now 5 votes clear of Jai Caldwell, who is injured. Sam Durham's worked his way up with those 5 votes. Dersma and Gresham sneak their way up as well. And then it is a logjam with the 1 and 2 vote wonders. But yeah, cheers for the votes, guys. Keep it up. All right, Essendon against Melbourne, 14th against 17th. For the first time all year, we are the favourites going into a game. It is marginal, but we are still the favourites. And really, I mean, it comes from the fact that our opponent is having a bit of a nightmare season. Let's be real, you know, the Ds are 0-4. They've lost their last 3 games by all over 6 goals, including a 59-point loss to North Melbourne. Melbourne don't look great. They're not a very good team this year. And on the flip side, I mean, we're not much better. We've got the 1 victory against Port and the 4th worst percentage in the comp. Neither of these teams is any good. Both have some horrendous injuries. We have even more players out since our last game. And yeah, I guess this is really, more than anything, just a huge opportunity for one of these teams to avoid scrutiny for the week. Because if Melbourne lose, they go 0-5. They simply cannot afford that. All hell would break loose. And if we lose, we lost to Melbourne, a team we really should be beating if we want to be taken seriously. And it would prove that we're, down the bottom end of the ladder for the year. So yeah, Melbourne in recent history have had the upper hand. They've won 4 of the last 5 games that these two teams have played in. The one outlier in those 5 matches was Gather Round 2023, where we beat the Demons on a Saturday at Adelaide Oval. And luckily enough, it's another Saturday under the lights at Adelaide Oval. We've got a 100% win record against the Ds in Adelaide, so chalk it in. Let's talk about the game. How do we get this done? How do we make sure we don't slip up here against the out-of-form Demons? Okay, so first, Melbourne as a club and the way they play, it is pretty bad. I was watching that Geelong game on Friday, and I just saw a team completely lacking in a proper, sustainable game plan. Geelong took almost 150 uncontested marks against the Demons. They just had complete control of the entire ground. The Ds were throwing numbers back to stem the catch scoring, and to be fair, they did. Geelong struggled to score, but yeah, there was no inspiration going the other way. Geelong took 165 marks for the night. That is the 12th most in a single game in the history of AFL since stats were recorded. It was just baffling to watch. Melbourne were nowhere, and then I look at the week before against Gold Coast. They were massacred in the midfield. That's where they lost. They were negative 16 on clearances, negative 18 for contested possessions, negative 25 for inside 50s, and then the week before against North, so their strength was just completely taken away. They used to be so good at scoring from stoppages and centre bounces. They scored just 17 points and from stoppages and 14 from centre bounces. Yeah, I don't know. There's losing. Every team loses. But then there's a team losing multiple games in a row for completely different reasons. They're clearly trying to change on the run. The way they played against Geelong was completely different to the way they played the week before. They were actively trying something, but nothing was working. Nothing's been working all year for them. They unfortunately right now are doing nothing right as a team. That's the unfortunate thing. And I know people are going to think that I'm talking smack. I'm really not. I rate Melbourne a lot. I'm comparing them to their best. Unfortunately, they're just not at their best. And individual players are now out of form too. I said in my ladder prediction when I put Melbourne in the bottom 4 that they rely on their best players too much, and now their best players aren't playing well, neither is the team. I'll talk about why that's maybe a worry later, but for now, you've got Bailey Fritsch. He's kicked 1 goal for the season. Gawn is not tearing matches apart anymore. He's been beaten by more than 1 ruck this year. Petrarca's bloody ripping his hair out post-game. There's real frustration and anger from the senior players in this playing group because nothing they're doing right now is working. working. The thing about Melbourne is that they're a contest-heavy team. They love the ball in tight and personal spaces. That's why they really like wet weather footy. They love repeat stoppage, territory, just, booting the ball forward if they can. The foot skills on the outside is not great. It's why they're not a team to be scared about on transition. A wild stat, by the way, they have one player in the top 100 in the competition for field kicking, ranked by Champion Data, and that player is ranked 96. So they don't have any prolific ball users that they can rely on to move the footy forward and progress it forward. They rely on their grunt in the contest, winning the territory battle, and it's worked for them in the past. They've won grand finals that way, but this year it isn't working. They're ranked dead last for clearances, below West Coast. Because of that, they've got the 6th least inside 50s in the comp. They're not winning it out of the middle, so they're not getting territory. They're always on the back foot. Only one team allows their opponent to get more of the footy than the Ds, but also Melbourne are the worst team at scoring from turnover, so they're losing the ball out of the middle, and when they win it back, they're not transitioning or scoring or doing anything with it. They desperately want the game in the contest, but they don't know how to get the game on their terms for that to happen, because when it's in there, they aren't winning the hard footy. And I should say, it's probably a good week for them to turn that around. We're missing Jai Caldwell and Darcy Parish, two of our midfield anchors. So if they come to play, there's an advantage there. But there are serious problems at Melbourne right now. There are so many ways that teams can beat them. The only issue is, for me, at some stage they have to show up. I mean, it is just inevitable. A team's not going to go without winning a game for the whole year. They're going to turn up. And against us, I mean, we're not a strong team. I'd back maybe 13 or 14 other teams to definitely beat the Demons if they played them this week. I don't know if we're one of those teams yet. So, yeah, I mean, you can't really trust us. You can't trust the Ds. So, how is this game going to play out? So, in warm conditions, under night lights, it's going to be a tiny bit dewy, meaning skills might not be at a high. This could bring Melbourne's contest work into the spotlight. Players like Petrarca and Oliver are made for games like this. This is going to be a very old and mature bunch of A-graders going up against a depleted Bombers engine room. The game's going to be won in the midfield. I mean, it just is. If Essendon managed to win the engine room battle, win territory, limit the amount of footy, front half footy that Melbourne get, we probably win the game. I mean, against Melbourne, it's always in the midfield. The Ds hate transition footy. They'd much rather park the bus and pray that their midfield wins the next centre bounce than try and move it back and forth from the defensive half. That is why we need to take that advantage away from them. All we need to do is even out in the midfield, even if it's a slight win or loss on the clearance tally. All we need to do is make sure we're not letting the Demons roll through out of the middle like they used to do in their best. Think of Petrarca running through in that 2021 grand final. Both these teams do have makeshift forward lines right now, so scoring's probably going to come at a premium. I think it's all... Jesus Christ. Alright, where was I? Yeah, I mean, it's both these teams, injuries in the forward half. No Peter Wright, no Kyle Langford, no Tom Edwards now. There's no Jake Stringer, obviously, from before. There's lots of players we're missing, same as Melbourne. I think it really, because of these forward lines and the lack of actual goals that these players have kicked, I think it's really all about which team has the ball in the right areas more often. And if it's us, I think we're just more likely to create repeat entries. So we need to hope that Sartas and Durham and even Merritt are getting the upper hand in the contest in the middle, because that Melbourne midfield is really good at its best. You've got Gawn, Petrarca, Oliver, Viney. I mean, they're struggling for form now, but on their day, I mean, they are stars of the comp. They're at their best. If both these teams are at their best, Melbourne's midfield is miles ahead of ours. We just need to hope it's not at its best. And I guess a good way to enforce that ourselves is to show up with the same early game pressure that we did against Port Adelaide. Put the opposition on the back foot straight away and ask them to respond. If they respond, fine. We've got a battle on our hands, but you don't want Essendon to be the team on the back foot to start. If you're young and missing half the most experienced players on the list, it could only end badly. And the thing is, Melbourne are a team who really differ week to week. So... yes, they've been nothing short of horrendous all season so far, but I look at last year, they were no good last year. They were, I think, 5th last, but some of the wins they got, they beat Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, the Suns at Metricon, Geelong at the MCG. They're never completely hopeless for a whole season, Melbourne, under Goodwin at least. Yes, they're bad, but they're without a doubt going to have a good game soon. This is where predicting things gets tough, because I always think, this is just me. I always think, surely this is where a team breaks the losing streak. I tipped the Blues last week because I said to myself, they're not going to go 0-4. That just can't happen. And part of me is thinking that with Melbourne. Like, will Melbourne really go 0-5 this week? Is that going to happen? Or are we going to see a proper response for the first time all year? Are we going to be looking at the ladder and seeing Melbourne as one of two winless teams still? It just feels wrong, you know? It's really a tough game to get a read on, to be honest, because of that. Because neither of these teams have showed anything great so far. It's pretty clear how both teams want to play. The Ds want the contest. We don't mind the contest, but we're probably a bit more rounded. The Ds are not, but they're stronger in their strengths than we are. So yeah, I mean, sometimes analysing a game just doesn't mean anything because it just comes down to which team shows up. I can see a world where we show up and lose. I don't think I can see a world where Melbourne really properly show up for the first time all year and lose, if you get me. I think Melbourne, if Melbourne are playing well at their best, they probably win this game of footy. As I said before, Melbourne's best is miles better than ours. So really, it's all about vibes. It's all about what Melbourne actually are like in 2025. How far off are they from those, premiership years and how far fallen are those star players that they so rely on. And it's all really about what Melbourne do differently to try and get the upper hand, because we saw the way they played last week. It's about what they do differently and whether or not it works. It's all about how well Fritsch and Gawn and Petrarca go. And on the flip side, it's a great chance for guys like Nick Martin and Ben Mackay on our team to play themselves into form and get going for the season. It feels like this could be a really big game for quite a few individuals, and that's going to, those individuals that it's a big game for, that's going to clump together, and whatever team's individuals are having the better day, that's probably who wins in the end. Team news, starting with the Demons. I don't think they have any new injuries, but I still think there will probably be some changes after their recent loss. Former Don Jake Melksham is a sneaky chance to be omitted after a really poor game against the Cats. Bailey Fritsch is also struggling. He's kicked 1 goal for the year. Tom Sparrow and Harry Sharp were nowhere. Too many players to talk about, to be honest. There's quite a few underperformers. I think they surely bring in Tom Fullerton. He's been kicking goals in the VFL. And Dan Turner could be on the outer, just for something different, I guess. And maybe Melksham comes out for someone like Blake Howes to try a different swap too, but who knows. Anyway, all you guys want to hear about is Essendon. So we've got 2 more players added to the injury list. Tom Edwards is out for the year with an ACL. Jai Caldwell did his hamstring at training. We've got Peter Wright and Parrish nearing a return, but not quite this week. They're probably going to play in the VFL practice match, I reckon. So I think Elijah Sartas comes back from his injury for Caldwell, and Perkins probably comes back for Tom Edwards. If one of those two isn't quite up to it, Will Satterfield would probably be next in line. But I think those are the changes that make most sense for us. I don't think we really need to see any debutants this week after a win against the Power. Okay, prediction. Who's going to take home the 4 points? Which of Essendon's first round picks will be lower down the order? Look, I think we probably should win this game of footy. I think the expectation is now for Essendon to win. Not by heaps. The odds aren't that different, but if we actually want to prove that we're not a bad footy team this year, this is the type of game that we just go out and win. Most teams would probably beat Melbourne. I can see a world where Melbourne turn up, their stars all start playing well, they get things clicking again. We're certainly a side who can play other teams into form, no denying that. And I also think if you had both these teams at their best, like I said, like reaching their current potential this year, Melbourne are probably the one more suited to a one-on-one game. They'd be feeling like they should be winning this game of footy. But I mean, just going off the way they've been playing, the way that they've, been so uninvolved in matches, that Geelong game, the North game, the Gold Coast game, it's hard to really tip Melbourne. It's hard to put any more trust in them than I do Essendon. I don't think we're a trustworthy team in the slightest right now. It's really hard to read us. That can obviously change. But as for right now, I don't think we're a team you just, trust to show up to win a game of footy, but I'm going to trust us more than Melbourne. That's really all this prediction is, me trusting Essendon more than Melbourne from what I've seen this year. And I'm going to back us to win by 8 points. I think it'll probably be close either way. I can't see it being a blowout with both these forward lines and the lack of scoring. I can't see them losing another blowout, especially against Essendon. We're scared of beating teams comfortably. But yeah, I think we probably win this game. But I say that with absolutely no confidence. This is a really weird matchup, to be honest. It's hard to know what's going to happen. But yeah, that is that. A big game for us. We either end the week 2 wins and 2 losses, a decent start in hindsight, or we go 1-3 and are destined for a bottom 4 scrap. Get out to support the boys if you're in Adelaide. Enjoy the city, the state for the weekend. The weather is looking fantastic. Cheers for watching. Like, subscribe, and go Bombers.